Session of the Guam Youth Congress is hereby called to order. I'd like to call on Representative Angara for the prayer.
Okay. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Lord, we are meeting today to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen.
I'd like to call on Representative Lorenzo for the anthem.
Oh, say.
I call on Representative Kenny McDonald for the Guam hymn.
Fanogicha.
I call on Representative Quintanilla for the Inifresi.
Inifresi.
All right, everybody, you may be seated. Could I get first roll call, please?
Representative Adawag. Representative Angara. Representative Carranza. Representative Casilla. Representative Delori. Representative Dichoso. Representative Fajarin. Representative Felicen. Representative Lorenzo. Representative Makepeace. Vice Speaker Keandra McDonald. Representative Kenny McDonald. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Richards. Representative Righetti. Speaker Santos. Representative Stiles. Representative Valencia. Mr. Speaker, there is a quorum.
Representative Valencia, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion to waive items 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 of our legislative session agenda.
There has been a motion to waive items 7 through 11 on the session agenda. Are there any objections? Hearing none, motion is passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to also make a motion to pass over item number 12, introduction and first reading of bills and resolutions.
There's been a motion to pass over item 12 of the agenda. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would now like to make a motion to resolve into the Committee of the Whole for the purpose of swearing in the newly elected representatives from our special election held on October 16, 2017.
There's been a motion to resolve into the Committee of the Whole. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make a motion now to recess for 5 minutes.
There's been a motion for a recess. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. All right, representative-elects, hold your right hand out and repeat after me. I solemnly swear in the presence of Almighty God that I will well and faithfully support the Constitution of the United States, the laws of the United States, applicable to Guam, and the laws of Guam, and that I will conscientiously and impartially discharge my duties as a representative of the Guam Youth Congress. All right, thank you very much. Let's welcome in our new representatives. We have Representative Byron Bloss. We have Representative Abriana Cruz. We have Representative Al Labang. And we have Representative Maurice Tamagan. All right, welcome to our body, everybody. All right, moving on. Representative Valencia, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion to resolve out of the Committee of the Whole.
There's been a motion to rise from the Committee of the Whole. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would now like to make a motion to go back to item 12 of our legislative session agenda, introduction and first reading of bills and resolutions.
There's been a motion to move back to item 12. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Can I get the first reading of bills and resolutions?
Bill number 14-31, COR, as amended by the Committee on Environment and Chamorro Affairs, introduced by Javen W. Santos. An act to ban the sales and distribution of fossil fuel-based plastic shopping bags.
Thank you. Moving on to motions. With that, could I get Representative Ongara to take the chair?
Representative Santos.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to move Bill 14-31 to the second reading file.
Are there any objections? If there are no objections, a motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bill number 14-31 is a bill that is long overdue on our island for many reasons. But before I go over that, let's just go over all the sections of the bills and how they will apply. Section 2 of the bill, beginning in April 1st, 2018, which is halfway through the fiscal year, shall place a tax of 10 cents per plastic bag imported into the island. And this tax is for any businesses who import these single-use plastic bags. The revenue shall be deposited into the Wildlife Conservation Fund, and this shall take effect until October 1st, which is the next fiscal year. Beginning April 1st, 2018, retail stores will then have to charge 25 cents per plastic bag being used. And violations of this section come with fines to the businesses that are described below as well. Beginning October 1st, the use of the single-use carry-out plastic bags will be banned and will be punishable, and the importation of the plastic bags will be restricted as well. The fine of $10 per plastic bag. Now, the reason that I introduced this bill was noticing that Guam had been behind in terms of this particular type of legislation. We find that many of our brothers and sisters in the other islands, including Yap and Palau, have tackled this legislation already. Furthermore, it's been found that Guam is the last US territory to tackle this issue as well. And this issue is significantly important to us, being a Pacific island. The plastic bags can be seen to have a huge environmental impact on our island. Plastic bags can choke out the sun from the coral. Plastic bags can be eaten by other animals like turtles, who we're already seeing becoming more and more rare on our island. These turtles will eat these plastic bags out of confusion because they think what they're eating is a jellyfish, but this plastic bag is not going to give them the nutrients that they need to survive and could very well not only choke them, but kill them. Guam has a huge issue with invasive species and other environmental issues, and policy needs to be put in place to try to appease these environmental issues. Just going on the beach and seeing how beautiful our beaches are and how lucky we are to be living on this island, one of the things that I hope to do more is to protect our island. And that's what the intentions of this bill is, to protect our island from these single-use plastic bags that can not only hurt our environment, but also take thousands of years to biodegrade. And this will be just sitting in our landfills and in our dumps, just releasing carcinogens as they deteriorate. These plastic bags do much more harm than the cost that they save with their use. And by passing this, and I urge all of you to pass this bill, because the environmental impacts of this bill should be looked into. I've been getting a lot of contacts from various people who have heard about this bill, and it's been a lot of the feedback has been really good. A lot of the feedback has been positive, and people have pointed out new things I didn't know about this issue of the plastic bags. People have pointed out that, yeah, this is an issue that so many people are tackling, and it's a shame that Guam has not tackled it. But what's unfortunate to me is an organization that's supposed to protect the environment had contacted me about this legislation as well. And when I had spoken to them, they had brought up their concerns with the bill, which is reasonable. But one of the concerns that they pointed out is that this bill will have a monumental impact on businesses and stakeholders. And I completely agree with that. This bill will impact these businesses and stakeholders and have them no longer hurt our environment with these plastic bags. And the stakeholders that they mention, I am considering in this bill. The stakeholders I consider are all 170,000 citizens living on this island who enjoy living in our beautiful tropical paradise. But our beautiful tropical paradise is in danger. And we need to take stances like this to protect our environment. And I do hope that the Youth Congress will realize that this is an important issue and pass this bill. That way, the bill can be passed on to our senators. And I have complete faith that our senators will, once seeing this bill, will be able to have the public hearings and to address all the concerns in this bill so that this bill can finally come into law and we will no longer be threatened by all the harm that plastic bags do. I'm not sure if you guys see all the videos about the different types of ways that plastic hurts not only our oceans as an island, but our environment in general. On our Earth today, we have a whole island of trash floating in the Pacific. That just comes from the Pacific garbage patch is literally just a huge mound of trash the size of an island, and that's hurting all the animals and plants that live in the ocean, all the creatures in the ocean, and that's hurting us too. That's hurting us who rely on our ecosystem. It's hurting our fishermen who catch these fish unknowing that they're contaminated with this plastic in their system. And this issue encompasses so much that I feel like we, as Youth Congress, who are inheriting the future of our island, should speak out about this issue and tackle this issue. I don't know about you guys, but I want to live in a future that is environmentally friendly, and I want to live in a future where I feel good about what we're leaving behind for the generation after us. And tackling this piece of legislation and having faith that the legislative process through us and eventually through our senators is a good democratic process, and all things will be considered before this bill goes to before the bill potentially goes to the governor to sign into law. Then hopefully with all that in place, we can ensure that a cleaner and healthier future will be seen for us and for our environment and for everybody who lives on this island. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would anyone else like to speak on this bill? Representative McDonald.
Thank you. Would the speaker yield to a question?
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you why, it's more of an open-ended question, but what made you want to charge people for bringing in plastic bags when how people have seen me vote in the past, for example, is that I vote for more encouragement, because what I see is that instead of charging people for bag, you could take off a tax exemption for people who do have plastic bags. So my question is why exactly are you looking at charging? Why are you going this way instead of another way?
To me, the incentive, or the disincentive rather, is to get people used to the idea that plastic bags are no longer going to be an option. I think that by having this fee on the carry-out plastic bags, we ensure that people remember every time they go to the grocery store, oh man, if I'm gonna go to the grocery store, I'm gonna have to pay 25 cents per plastic bag I use. And this would keep them in mind to bring in their reusable canvas bags, their reusable shopping bags to bring in their groceries. It's to be seen as a reminder of the bill, to wean people off the use of these single-use plastic bags.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to state my position on this. My position is actually really on the fence. I have no clue as to where I'm going to vote right now, only because I do appreciate the initiative. I've lived in a city where this was actually implemented, but at the same time, like I've said it earlier, I don't want to go for the path that forces people to pay for something like this, especially since there are many stores and many restaurants that do already have biodegradable bags. I just think because there's already a movement going that way, I don't think it's imperative to charge people for something like this. I understand his reasonings, and I understand that he's bringing these funds to the wildlife conservation, but for me, it's the wrong way to go about it. And I also have an amendment that I would like to make. So for lines 2, 5, 13, 17, and 18 of page 2, I would like to amend it to where it says fossil fuel based before every plastic bag. It would just be more consistent with what he wrote in section 1, and that way we wouldn't be targeting places that have biodegradable bags. So that way it's more clear to us and to them. And that is okay.
Would anyone like to speak on the amendment? Mr. Speaker?
I'd like to thank Vice Speaker McDonald for amending this bill and clarifying the definition of plastic bags as similar to the legislative intent as possible. I do think that this is a fix that would definitely help just clarify just to have as much clarity on the issue as possible and to have as much clarity on the bill as possible. So I appreciate that. I would like to also point out that this is not my effort alone through the bill. This bill had gone through the regular committee process, and it had gone through our Environmental and Chamorro Affairs Committee, and all the amendments that have been made to the bill were made in the committee. Yeah, I really do appreciate these little fixes in the bill, though I wish that this would have been clarified a little bit sooner in the committee process, especially out of the chairmanship of the committee. But I would just like to say thank you for the amendment, and I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would anyone else like to speak on the amendment? Representative Lorenzo?
Oh. Sorry, I would like to speak on the bill, not the amendment. I'll just sit back down. I'm sorry.
Anyone else? Okay, so would anyone else like to speak on the bill?
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
Can we vote on the amendment, I think?
Okay.
I think we have to vote on the amendment. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so vote on the amendment. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so all in favor of the amendment to put the word fossil fuel and all of the word before before bags? Okay. The amendment passes. Would anyone else like to speak? Would anyone else like to speak on this bill? Representative Lorenzo?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I fully support this bill, but I would like to go back to a bill that is very similar, and it was referred to the same committee. This is Bill 9-31, and it is an act to amend, so it's just relative to regulating and prohibiting the ownership and keeping of invasive species on our island. So it also states here how it was $150 per snake. So instead of not charging, we were to charge someone for the invasive species. So I feel like it did mirror what this is today with the whole taxing, or like with the whole charging people. So I would like to say that there is a bill that was very similar in the structure and everything. So I fully support this bill. Thank you.
Madam, can I just make a statement?
Yes.
I would just like to remind everyone that Bill 9 did not pass because it was charging people, and that was the main reason, one of the main reasons. So, yes, just point of information.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak on this bill? Representative Rigetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would the author of the bill yield to a question?
I yield.
Thank you. For section 2, lines 1, 2, 3, essentially, I just have a question. The taxing of 10 cents per plastic bag imported, was this based on similar existing legislation? How is this number determined?
I would like to say that this was based on the research that we did into the various other places that had import tax, or so the various places that did charge per plastic bag. We did, through research and through the committee, this conclusion had been found that 10 cents per plastic bag would be reasonable. And yeah, we did a lot of research into this bill, and that was definitely one of the things we considered when we were researching. So yes, this was concluded through the research that we did onto this legislation.
Thank you. May I ask a second question? Regarding lines 6 through 7 on page 2, where it kind of mandates that plastic bags be made available for purchase for no less than 25 cents. I don't believe that it's possible for us to dictate cost of products for businesses. Just putting that out there. So my question would be, I guess maybe to the body, if we feel that this might be too much for us to dictate. I don't know.
Okay. Can all the questions be directed to the chair?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Can I ask that we break for recess so they can discuss further?
All in favor of a recess? Okay. Youth Congress is back in session. Representative Rigetti. Your question.
No, I have no further questions for the author of the bill.
Okay, thank you. Representative LeBang.
Okay, is it okay if the speaker would like to yield to the question, Madam Chair?
Yes, I yield to questions.
Okay. So, would you still in favor if we add on styrofoam on the bill itself, Madam Chair?
I feel like we can tackle these issues one bill at a time. I feel like that issue is a little bit different. And at the same time, I'd like to give the opportunity for other representatives to come up with their own bills to introduce as well. So if that's an issue that you see as something that you would like to do, it would be really cool for you to offer or introduce a bill in regards to styrofoam. But all the research and the intentions of this bill were in regards to plastic bags. But it's not something that I'm opposed to in a different bill. I think that would be really a good issue to tackle as well.
No, there's no other further questions, but I want to state my support on this bill, and that, for example, my home place, Philippines, have banned plastic bags already. One thing I see that we can put more things into this bill and like and the bill itself can pass, but like I want to add on to other things that we can help to save our environment, because like global warming is real, it's not a hoax. And I disagree with President Trump on his view on it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Representative McDonald.
Will Speaker Santos please yield to a question?
Will the author yield to the question?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Madam Speaker, I would just like to express my support for the intent of the bill, but I just have some concerns on how the bill will be carried out. So, according to the New York Times, it costs 1 cent to create a fossil fuel-based plastic bag, and if the government will be taxing 10 cents per plastic bag, yet each establishment must charge 25 cents per bag, and there's a 16-cent profit per bag. Do you think this goes against the original intent of the bill and can be seen as an incentive for establishments to actually use plastic bags?
In clarifying the cost or the charge of the bill, why it's 25 cents, I believe that we base that on legislation from, or in conferring with the committee, I found that the amendment had come from research into legislation from California, and that's how California tackled that's how California tackled their issues with the plastic bag ban. When the amendment went through, I did find it as an issue, or the disparity between the tax and the charge was an interesting thing to me to see, and I did want to hear the body's concerns and opinions about it. And I hope that the body would be able to make an amendment to fix this however they see fit. But if not, then throughout the testimony, I'll be working on an amendment that hopefully the body will find reasonable to tax. And ultimately, in terms of incentivizing plastic bags, that incentive only lasts for the span of the second half of the fiscal year, because beginning October 1st, the plastic bags in general will be prohibited to use, and the importation would be banned. So the importation would be banned and fined. And because of that, that 6-month period, though it is concerning that the difference in the price, I understand the intention of the committee was to make sure that the intention of the committee was to make sure that people had an incentive to bring their reusable bags. And that 25 cents is more prominent than the 10 cents that's charged for the tax. And throughout that 6 months, when the tax and the charge would be in place, I'd like to remind everybody that the funds from this will go into the Wildlife Conservation Fund, which is a fund that we selected due to the intent of the bill being protecting the environment. Yeah, ultimately, I'm open to amendments that the body sees would fix this situation, or fix this. If the good representative would like to proctor an amendment in regards to this bill, or to this problem that is found with this bill, I would be more than happy to listen to the will of the body. Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is all.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this bill? Representative Richards.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to clarify, I was the one that proposed the amendment for charging no less than 25 cents at the register. And my logic behind that is to not only deter customers from getting the bags, but because they're being taxed, because businesses are being taxed on every bag they bring in, they're not going to sell every bag. So they can make a little bit back and balance out their checkbooks with what they make from the charge at the register. And I recognize that it might seem like a major profit for them, but I found that it was a middle ground, as opposed to if we charged $1 per bag, which would be an extreme deterrent for people. Nobody's going to pay $1 per plastic bag at the register. But the profit that the businesses would get there would just be too extreme. But I found that if we lower it to maybe 10 cents, that it wouldn't, the deterrent wouldn't really be there. People would be fine with paying 10 cents per bag. It's not much. I feel like 25 cents was a reasonable middle ground for me. But if we disagree on that, we can make an amendment to change that. Yes, thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this bill? Mr. Speaker, you are welcome to close, if no one else would like to speak on this bill.
I'd just like to say thank you for all the testimony on this bill, and I would like to thank the proctoring of the amendment that was made. Ultimately, the intention of this bill is to rid ourselves of a harmful something that is harmful to our environment that so many other people, so many other governments, and so many other communities have already implemented already. I hear all your concerns, and I would like to thank you all for reaching out to your concerns and to to introducing amendments. But ultimately, we want this bill to. I want to remind you guys that at the end of the day, this bill is seeking to eventually ban plastic bags altogether. And that is really the ultimate goal of what we're fighting for. There was a lot of compromise to getting this ban to happen throughout the committee process. And I would like to thank all the committee members for talking through the bill and to finally putting the bill on the session agenda. And ultimately, I feel that this bill will not be seen as something that is anti-business. This bill will not be seen as something that is anti-environment. This bill will be seen as something that is good for all of us here living on Guam. All of us who want to swim in a clean ocean. All of us who want to enjoy nature without having to be without having to see it so cluttered with litter. And by phasing plastic bags out, which I would like to remind you guys that so many other of our fellow brothers and sisters in the other islands, as well as other communities around the world have tackled. I think that we need to recognize that Guam is a little bit behind in this race, and that by introducing this bill and passing it and placing it in the hands of our senators to tackle, I think that we can ensure that this bill ultimately the intention of this bill falls into place, and we do what is right to protect our environment. I guess in my closing, I'd just like to remind all of you guys that this issue is something that does affect all of us. And ultimately, I don't know about you guys, but I would like us to get a little ahead in this on environmental issues, because so much is at stake with our environment. So much of our agriculture rests in the balance of our environment, and the aquaculture, the fishing of our island, as well as a lot of our tourism is also seeking into the place of our environment. So tackling this issue of plastic bags helps so many different things that can improve overall the quality of life on our island. And I have faith that the senators, once seeing this bill and seeing that this is an issue that the youth find important, will take it into their hands and work through the process so that this bill ultimately sees debate and hopefully gets as far as it gets. And with that being said, Madam Chair, I would like to move Bill 14-31 to the, I would like to move Bill 14-31 to third reading file.
There has been a motion to move Bill number 14-31 to the third reading file. Are there any objections? There's an objection. Those in favor? There has been an objection. All those in favor of moving Bill number 14-31 to the third reading file, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion passes. Okay. Representative Santos, would you take the chair?
Thank you, everybody, for participating in the debate, and hopefully, could I get a second roll call? Representative Valencia, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion that a second roll call, or that the 4 newly sworn-in representatives that their names be reflected on the first roll call.
I'm sorry, could you clarify your motion again?
That the 4 newly sworn-in representatives, that their names be reflected in the first roll call.
There's been a motion to reflect our 4 new representatives on the first roll call. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would now like also to like a motion that second roll call reflect the first roll call.
There's been a motion to reflect second roll call as first roll call. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Could I get the third reading file, please?
Bill number 14-31, as amended by the Committee on Environment and Chamorro Affairs and further amended on the floor. Introduced by Javen W. Santos. An act to ban the sales and distribution of fossil fuel-based plastic shopping bags. Representative Adawag. Representative Adawag, aye. Representative Angara. Representative Angara, aye. Representative Blas. Representative Blas, aye. Representative Cruz. Representative Cruz, aye. Representative Labang. Representative Labang, pass. Representative Lorenzo. Representative Lorenzo, pass. Vice Speaker Keandra McDonald. Vice Speaker Keandra McDonald, nay. Representative Kenny McDonald. Representative Kenny McDonald, aye. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Quintanilla, aye. Representative Richards. Representative Richards, pass. Representative Righetti. Representative Righetti, nay. Speaker Santos.
Hongan.
Speaker Santos, aye. Representative Samagan. Representative Samagan, aye. Representative Valencia. Representative Valencia, pass. Representative Labang. Representative Labang, pass. Representative Lorenzo. Representative Lorenzo, aye. Representative Richards. Representative Richards, pass. Representative Valencia. Representative Valencia, pass. Representative Labang. Representative Labang, aye. Representative Richards. No. Representative Richards, nay. Representative Valencia. Representative Valencia, nay.
With the vote of 10 ayes and 4 nays, Bill 14-31 hereby passes. Moving on to consideration of the daily file. Is there anybody, or moving on to brief extension of remarks. Is there anybody who would like to make a remark on, yes?
I just want to make a few remarks about the discussion we had today. So I believe that I am pretty straightforward on all my voting and all my bills. And to have someone, I'm not going to name who, try to use a bill against me that I have created, it just doesn't seem right in the way, because I have been pretty consistent. And if you did actually look at my bill, Bill 9, then you would see that there is the reward part to it. So I just wanted to make that statement. Please try not to do that next time, because you will see that I am consistent with everything that I do. Also, I want to point out that as committee chair for the Chamorro and Environmental Affairs, I take full responsibility for not having this bill as prepared as it should be. But I also say that if you want to make amendments and you are in the committee, please, please, please let us try to meet in person and at a time, because I have been trying to meet it. As I said, I'm not going to put any names because I do take full responsibility, because it is my committee. I am the chair. Let us just please try to make this process more smoothly so that it doesn't come to this point where I have to be called out because of it, or I feel as if my committee is not doing the work that it should be doing for the body and for our representative, or for the people that elected us in, because we are elected officials and we are the people that are serving the youth, and we have to act so in this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Speaker McDonald. Is there anybody else who would like to make any remarks on today's agenda? Representative Richards.
Mr. Speaker, I'd just like to clarify on my vote. I'm fully in support of the intent of the bill. But after hearing the concerns, I recognize that the bill was unfinished in a sense, where there was no communication with the authorities that reached out to you. And my thoughts on that are, because of our success in the past with our previous bills, I believe we're being taken more seriously by the community, apparently, because they have interest in what we're working on now. And I'd just like to invite them, whoever's watching, all the agencies, if they have an issue with what we're doing, to communicate with us their concerns so that we can bring it up. Because as a youth Congress, we have no access to legal counsel. This is all based on our research with the free time that we have. And I know most of us are working, most if not all of us are students. And we're not getting paid, or we are getting paid for this technically. Not as much as the senators. This is not a full-time job. We can't spend all of our time doing research into these bills. We don't have workers under us. We don't have our own offices. And as far as the committee goes, I saw there was communication within the committee, but it seemed that there was a lack of interest in working on the bill collaboratively. And I would disagree that we need to have a committee meeting to be productive. The bill was available on Google Drive, and everybody in the committee had access to the bill and could have edited the bill. The only people that amended the bill were the original author, myself, and Representative Valencia. And I think if any person in the committee would propose an amendment on the floor that could have simply been proposed when they had access to it in the committee is ridiculous. But this is all a learning process, and I'd like to commend everybody participating. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Richards. Is there anybody else who would like to make a brief extension of remarks for today? Representative LeBang.
Good to be back. Okay, so actually, Mr. Speaker, if you'll allow me, if I can already say the committees that I intend to join.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
If you would allow me, if I can already say the committees I intend to join.
What I can't understand your question, sorry. Representative Valencia?
Mr. Speaker, I believe Representative LeBang can express his sentiments as to which committees he would like to join, but I believe we're, at this moment, in brief extension remarks, we are not.
Yeah.
We won't be discussing chairmanship and vacancies.
Okay.
Thank you.
Representative LeBang, brief extension of remarks is in regards to the agenda, what we discussed today.
Okay, so can I say my brief extension of remarks? Okay,
Sure.
So I voted yes for the intent because I don't know if it will be slippery slope if I say it's a good start for banning plastic bags, and later on think might consider writing a bill of banning styrofoams and other products that can affect our environment. So yeah, that's a slippery slope. So I vote yes, just a start, because like other establishments are starting to do the same thing. Like Payless, every Wednesday they don't allow plastic bags. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Is there anybody who would like to make any remarks about the agenda for today? Representative Rigetti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to echo the sentiments of Representative Richards. I was in support of the banning of plastic bags, but I feel that the bill needs more references, especially in regards to implementing tax and especially implementing sales fees at registers. I just would like to thank those who took this time to realize that this bill has some real implications as far as taxing businesses as well as people. I get that it's a deterrent to real issue that we have regarding plastic bag usage, and I do recognize the environmental impact of the use of plastic bags, but I just don't feel that I could have voted in support of this bill as it was. But I like to thank the efforts put forward, and I like to recognize that as representatives, we are showing an initiative to protect the environment, to protect our land, to protect the future of our island. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Rigetti. Is there anybody else who would like to make remarks on today's agenda? Representative Valencia?
I would just like to congratulate our newly sworn in representatives. We have, I believe we didn't mention the districts that they represented. So if we can, I'll call your name and you can stand up. We have Representative Brianna Cruz from the Academy of Our Lady of Guam. We have Representative Maurice Tumagan from the municipality of Tamuning Tumon Harmon. And we have Representative Byron Blas from Father Duenas Memorial School. And of course, a welcome back to Representative Alabang, who now represents the University of Guam. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Valencia. And yes, once again, welcome to all our new representatives. I look forward to seeing what you guys do with your term. Is there anything else for a brief extension of remarks on today's agenda? Moving on to announcements. Does anybody have any announcements that they would like to share? Yes, Representative Keandra McDonald.
More of a question. If Representative LeBang is asking if he can figure out what committees he can join, is it possible for us to go into a committee of a whole now at this point and discuss committees for the rest of the newly elected inaugurated representatives?
Representative Valencia.
Mr. Speaker, the purpose of the committee of the whole is to bring in people or other people who aren't representatives. So I think in terms of discussing the vacancies in the committees and the chairmanship and the membership, I think we can discuss that outside of session.
Okay, I was just wondering for clarification.
Yeah,
Thank you.
To clarify, yes, newly sworn in representatives, we do have several committees that are looking for members who are interested in what they're overseeing. You can talk to each of those committee chair people separately or outside of session if you guys want. But Representative Valencia, would we be able to talk about the vacancy in a chairmanship during the announcements?
I can make the motion to go back to motions.
Okay.
If that's the will of the body. Okay.
That sounds good.
Well, at the moment, Mr. Speaker, the only vacancy in the chairmanship is for the Committee on Public Safety, I believe.
Okay, so...
And at this time, I would like to make a motion for the body to go back to item 8, motions.
There's been a motion to go back to item 8 of the agenda. Is there anybody who... Item 8?
Motions.
Okay, there's been a motion to move back. Yes.
Oh,
Mr.
13,
Speaker,
sorry, 13.
Can we clarify for the newly elected representatives exactly what committee, what this committee entails, what it's about, just in case?
Okay.
Yes.
the committee that is lacking a chairmanship right now is the Committee on Public Safety and Judiciary. Could I get somebody with a copy of the rules to read what this committee chairmanship has oversight of? Representative Valencia, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As per section 16.07 of our rules, the Committee on Public Safety, Judiciary, and Homeland Security has purview over all matters relating to statutes of penal nature, all matters relating to the judicial branch of the government, to consumer protection, the Guam Police Department, the Guam Fire Department, Department of Corrections, the practice of law of Guam, the Office of the Attorney General, the compiler of laws, the territorial prosecutor, the public defender, the Guam Legal Services Corporation, the National Guard, and the Office of Civil Defense and Office of Homeland Security.
Thank you, Representative Valencia. Just to clarify what a chairman does, so when Youth Congress members write bills, these bills need to go through the committee process. And depending on what the bill is about, we have our Committee on Rules chairman refer these bills to certain committees. For example, the bill that we had talked about today was it was referred by the Committee on Rules chairman to the Environmental and Chamorro Affairs due to its nature relative to environment. And if a bill were to come into Youth Congress that had to do with safety, judiciary, Homeland Security, or any of the organizations or oversights that Representative Valencia had read out, then you would be responsible for holding a committee meeting and working on this bill so that it would be ready for session. You would be responsible to organizing the committee under you to make sure that bill is ready for session. So with that being said, I believe there was a motion on the table to go back to motions on the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion to go back to motions.
There's been a motion to go back to motions. Does anybody object? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would also now like to make a motion to discuss the vacancy of the chairmanship of the Committee on Public Safety, Judiciary, and Homeland Security, and have it open up to nominations. Thank you.
There's been a motion to discuss the vacancy in the chairmanship for the Committee on Public Safety, Judiciary, and Homeland Security, and to accept nominations. Is there anybody who objects? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Motion passes. Is there anybody who would like to nominate someone or themselves for this committee? Representative Lorenzo, you are recognized for a nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to nominate Representative LeBang for the chairmanship of Public Safety, Judiciary, and Homeland Security. That's the right one? And Homeland Security.
All right. Mr. LeBang, do you accept your nomination?
I accept it, and I will gladly accept if you vote for me. I've held this committee earlier this term, and I would fulfill better. I would like to continue what I've started in the past.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Is there any other nominations for the chairmanship of Public Safety, Homeland Security, and Judiciary? I nominate Representative Byron Blas. Do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I accept.
All right. Is there any other nominations for the chairmanship for Public Safety, Homeland Security, and Judiciary? Yes, Representative Valencia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to nominate Representative Tomagan.
Representative Tomagan, do you accept your nomination to be the chairman of Public Safety, Judiciary, and Homeland Security?
Yes, I accept.
All right. Is there any other nominations for this chairmanship? Representative Richards, you are recognized.
I would like to nominate Representative Aubriana Cruz for the position.
Aubriana, do you accept your nomination?
Yes, I accept this nomination.
Representative McDonald, you are recognized.
Mr.
Keandra
Speaker,
McDonald, sorry.
It's okay. Mr. Speaker, we have 4 people running for the vice chair. May we please let them have a discussion as to who the body would be able to vote for?
Yeah, they will definitely be able to state their case
Okay.
after the nominations are closed.
All right.
You'll have 1 minute to state your claim as why you want the chairmanship. Yeah, after the nominations are closed. Is there anybody else who would like to nominate for the chairmanship? Seeing as there are none, could I get a motion to close the nominations for this chairmanship?
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a... Seeing as no one wants to, I'd like to make a motion to close the nominations.
There's been a motion to close the nominations for the chairman of Public Safety, Homeland Security, and Judiciary. Does anyone oppose? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. All right, moving on to letting you guys state your case. You'll each have 1 minute. I guess we'll go in alphabetical order. Representative Blas, you can state your case.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm aware of the fact that we have 4 nominations and we are all newly inaugurated members of this Congress. And running for this chairmanship, I believe that public safety is a vital issue of our island, and that as everyone here is inexperienced, that I would state my case to the fact that I am aware of public safety as an issue. I have found members that are part of GPD, GAFD, and other organizations, so I understand what our island needs and what is required to make this island more safe and secure. And with that fact in mind, I would likely and humbly ask for your vote to make me the chairman of this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Blas. Next, we'll have Representative Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I feel as if for this position, the issues of our island and the people of our island are really problems that need to be addressed. And by running for this position, I hope to fulfill those needs that need to be addressed. I would also like to take into consideration that Guam, the people, it's very important that we are for the people. And by doing this, representing the people, I feel as if that I would be able to do that very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cruz. Next, we have Representative LeBang.
Mr. Speaker, and my colleagues now, I've held this committee earlier this term, as I said earlier, and I have some pre-planned bills and resolution that I'm planning to go to this committee. And I'm planning for Homeland Security purposes, and especially Guam is a typhoon area, and I hope I can get back to this committee and work better as I started before. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Representative Tamagan. I'm sorry, am I pronouncing your name correctly, by the way?
Yes, thank you, Speaker. As he said that we are all inexperienced and we are newly members, sorry.
Don't sweat it. Take your time, man.
I am dedicated to the job if I am elected as the chairman. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tamagan. Seeing as they've all stated their case, can we...
I'd like to call for a vote now, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, so we have called for a vote. This will be by show of hands. All those who vote for Representative Bloss for the chairmanship of the Committee on Public Safety, Homeland Security, and Judiciary, please raise your hand. One, two, three, four, five. 6. All those in favor of voting for Representative Cruz, please raise your hand. Two. All those in favor of Representative LeBang, please raise your hand. All those in favor of Representative Tamagan, please raise your hand. All right. I guess we'll run it off to Representative Blas and Representative LeBang. All those in favor of voting for Representative Blas, please raise your hand. All those in favor of Representative LeBang, please raise your hand. 6. All right, with a vote of 7 to 6, Representative Bloss is hereby voted the chair of the Committee on Public Safety, Homeland Security, and Judiciary. Congratulations. Is there any other announcements you guys would like to make? To join committees, you can speak to the chairman of those committees. We can read them out now, and I believe most of them are, if not all, are here right now. We're not going to read through the definitions and the oversights of each of them. We'll just give you the title and who's chair, and you can talk to them more.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have 9 committees. Committee on Rules is chaired by myself. Committee on Education and Youth Affairs is chaired by Representative Stiles, who is absent today. The Committee on Health and Human Services and Gender Affairs is chaired by Legislative Secretary Stephanie Lorenzo. Committee on Economic Development, Labor and Tourism is chaired by Representative Makepeace, who is absent today. And the Committee on Veterans Affairs and Military Buildup is chaired by Representative Kenny McDonald. That's her. That's... Yeah. And the Committee on Public Safety, Judiciary, and Homeland Security is now chaired by newly elected Representative Byron Blas. Committee on Environmental and Chamorro Affairs is chaired by Vice Speaker Keandra McDonald. Committee on Public and Municipal Affairs is chaired by the good gentleman from GIGO, Representative Richards. And the Committee on Administration and General Government Operations is chaired by Representative Jane Angara. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, those are the chairmen so far. And if you guys are interested in joining these committees, you can talk to these chairmen. Representative Bloss, since you have won the chairmanship, you are now a member of the Committee on Rules as well. You can talk to Representative Valencia if you have any questions on what that entails. And yeah, I'm really glad to have you newly elected members. just as an announcement, yeah, could I get a motion to move back to announcements? Representative LeBang?
A motion to move back to announcements.
There's been a motion. Is there anybody opposed? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. All right, in terms of announcements, I would like to remind all the representatives, as of the August session, we had instilled the rule that every representative is required to sponsor a bill or resolution every 6 months. So newly elected representatives, you guys will have that time to to ask any of the old representatives. You guys can all talk to me if you guys have any concerns or questions about bill and resolution drafting and sponsorship. And if I haven't sent you the templates, I'll send them out soon. And representatives, just keep in mind that this is now the second month since the bill has, since that new rule has been implemented. So keep in mind that in order to serve your duties as representatives of the Youth Congress, you guys are expected to sponsor legislation. Are there any other?
Just a point of inquiry, is bills or resolution or bills and resolution?
Bills or resolutions.
Okay, thank you.
Representative McDonald, you are recognized.
Just to add on to what the speaker is saying, when you introduce bills and resolutions, it doesn't have to be new laws that you create. It doesn't have to be something that you create on a whim. I encourage everyone in the body to go through the Guam Code Annotated, or to even just look around and see what you don't agree with that is happening today, and write a bill about that. So I feel like it's important because, as this was one of the concerns when we were debating that particular bill, is we don't want people to scrape the bottom of the barrel. Well, then go back into the bills already made by the legislature and see which ones you personally don't agree with, and make legislation off of that. So just to add on. Yes.
Or agree with and add on to their resolution as well. The Guam Code Annotated is an online resource, and that's definitely something that you guys can look up. There's the regular compiler of laws version, and there's a searchable version to make it easier for you guys to find which part of law to put your bills into. If you guys have any questions about the bill writing process or the Guam Code Annotated, you guys can reach out to me or any of the other representatives to clarify this stuff. Yeah, we've been around for a year, and we've been familiar with the committee process and sponsoring and stuff. And yeah, definitely use us as a resource. And just keep in mind that that when 6 months comes around, everybody should have sponsored something by that point. Is there any other announcements anyone would like to make? Representative Lorenzo, Legislative Secretary Lorenzo, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder that tomorrow morning, Guam Youth Congress is going to be with Senator Regine Bisco-Lee's spot canopy for the Guam Cocoa Half Marathon. We ask that all members please participate and please arrive at the canopy at 3:30 a.m. And our spot is right next to Mark's Sporting Good in Anigua. A.m. 3:30 a.m. next to Mark's Sporting Goods. So a landmark would be the 76 in Anigua, so just that little lot area behind or next to it. Please, thank you. Thank you.
The Cocoa Road Race is actually in the law, so that's by law. That by law happens every year. So it'd be really interesting for you guys to see the law in action in that way. Yeah, so if you guys, so we'd really like to see you guys there. Is there any other? And Legislative Secretary Lorenzo is the vice chair of the Standing Committee of community service. So the select committee, sorry. She's the vice chair of the select committee. She's filling in for Representative Faharan, who is the chair in his absence. So if you guys have any questions about community service or you want to join that committee as well, the select committees are different from the standing committees because they don't receive legislation. They more are along the lines in charge of operations and stuff. So, or just like how the Youth Congress, just like other facets of the Youth Congress. So yeah, you can talk to her about community service too. Is there anybody else who has any announcements? Oh, okay, awesome. Representative Adewijk, you are recognized.
I am selling haunted house tickets for the Teton High School ABS. It is on November 3rd from 6 to 9. There will also be concessions and a movie playing in our throne. Thank you. I'm selling tickets for $5.
Thank you, Representative Adewijk. Is there anybody else who has any announcements? Seeing as there are none, can I get a motion to adjourn session?
Thank you, Mr.
Representative
Speaker.
Valencia, you're recognized. Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this session subject to the call of the Speaker.
There's been a motion to adjourn session. Is there anybody opposed? Seeing as there are none, motion passes, session adjourned.